Joined by tech analyst Ryan Eldridge from Nerds on Call. Ryan, good to have you on here today. So starting Monday, TikTok and WeChat, they will be banned from app stores, and then of course WeChat facing much more drastic restrictions here in the U.S. Almost immediately. The Trump administration obviously pointing to these accusations and concerns about national security risk when it comes to the app. Beyond that, we hear about the deal that's out there potentially with Oracle. What might the administration be trying to accomplish with these moves? What's the end game here, you think?
So ultimately, the Trump administration is saying that that the data that TikTok and WeChat have access to can easily be exploited. Unfortunately, there's no real evidence that it's ever been exploited, other than on WeChat, which a Toronto security firm has confirmed that they have shared information with the Chinese government to monitor their citizens. But there hasn't been anything about TikTok about them actually sharing anything with the Chinese government at all.
Yeah, so and you talk about the distinction here in terms of the restrictions that will be imposed on both of these Chinese-owned companies. The initial impact far more serious for WeChat because from what I understand, American companies will be banned from hosting its internet traffic or processing its transactions. Doesn't this essentially will make that app useless here in the U.S., right?
Yeah, and that impacts Chinese citizens specifically. So while you and I may not use WeChat for day-to-day transactions, but if you're a Chinese student or an immigrant or somebody that has a Chinese bank account, WeChat is relatively ubiquitous. Everybody uses it, from paying for orders for food at restaurants to sending money to friends and family overseas. So it will impact the Chinese community, especially the immigrant community, massively since this order takes place.
All right, so when you talk about TikTok here, there's sort of a window. The clock is ticking for them. They have, according to the administration, they have until November 12th to essentially convince the U.S. government that their app doesn't pose a national security threat to the U.S. How do they go about proving that?
So right now, TikTok stores most of their data in Virginia and Singapore, and they're trying to make a deal with Oracle. Microsoft was on the table for a while for Oracle to manage their data, but what the U.S. really wants, what the Trump administration is asking is, instead of just managing their data, we want you to take over their entire system, so that way the Chinese government doesn't have access to any of the data at all on any U.S. citizen. And it kind of makes sense in the sense that, imagine if Facebook were telling us things that were happening in countries all over the world. That would give us a strange political advantage that could easily be exploited by a malicious government. Here's the problem, though, is the Trump administration is setting a precedent just for something like that to take place.